All right. Good afternoon, Loudoun County. I am Nick Rosita, and I am going to be discussing with you today Swift Playgrounds, which is really cool when you think about what the Loudoun Creates initiative is all about. So, a couple resources that I have for you guys. I'm going to be going through this presentation, and I also have a vision course set up for you all. There is no enrollment key. All you have to do is just find Swift Playgrounds for Loudoun Creates. That is all that you have to do to find that vision course. Just go back home on Vision, and you're going to see my list of courses over here. But if you go down to all courses, you can find it within Staff Development, Loudoun Creates, and Swift Playgrounds for Loudoun Creates. So very simple. It's right there for you, and there are a whole bunch of resources that we're going to be going through this afternoon. And we'll even go ahead and post this webinar right there in this course too, just to help you guys out. All right, so we're talking about Swift Playgrounds. And when we're talking about Swift Playgrounds, some of you are like, I have no idea how to code. I don't understand the relevancy of coding within my classroom. Grazita, you're a crazy guy. How in the world am I going to do this? Well, I'm going to make the following arguments to you all, and I think I'm going to persuade you. So why should students learn to code in your classroom? Why should this be part of Loudoun Creates? Well, my first argument is that digital literacy for your students is going to be enhanced. Your students have to read directions, they have to follow directions, they're given objectives, they're given goals, and if they don't read those, they can't figure out how to code or solve the problem that's right there in front of them. Talking about problem solving, here's what's really great. I'm going to argue that focus is going to be improved and that problem solving skills are going to be enhanced when you use Swift Playgrounds inside your classroom. Another big thing, number 3, learning to fail. Students are going to learn that they're not always going to be able to solve everything right away. They're going to have opportunities to make bad decisions within Swift Playgrounds, and they're going to learn from those mistakes. So this is a safe learning environment, safe learning space for the students, and that's what's really great, is that coding teaches students it's okay to fail and to pick up where they fall down. Lastly, epic wins. What's really great is that whenever I do sessions on Swift Playgrounds, I enjoy the fact that there's always that one person who's working ahead and not paying attention to me, and I don't blame them because I would be that very same person. They're sitting there playing around with Swift Playgrounds, and they're coding right there, not listening to me, and they get that epic win, and they go, yes, right in front of the entire group. And so I'm going to argue that we're going to see some epic wins from our students, and that's what we're all about. We want to see those epic wins. We want to see that learning has taken place, and we want them to be enthusiastic and excited. So let's play around inside the actual iPad that you have in front of you. So here's my iPad, and you can see I'm right here moving through everything. Well, the very first thing that we need to do, of course, is go into our service portal and make sure that we have Swift Playgrounds installed right there on our Loudoun Creates device. You can find Swift Playgrounds underneath the Learn category. It's right there on the very end. It says Swift Playgrounds. There's a white icon with an orange bird. Okay. Obviously, I'm not going to reinstall Swift Playgrounds. It's right there. All you have to do is press install. So I'm going to go back to my start page. And you can see within your Learn folder, for those of you who have installed it, your Learn folder has Swift Playgrounds right there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Playgrounds. And under Featured, we have a whole bunch of different programs that we're going to go through. Okay? So let me get out of this presentation here real quick. Make sure there aren't any questions thus far. Nope. That's good. So let's take a look at Swift Playgrounds. Swift Playgrounds is essentially the programming language that iOS runs off of, okay? Swift is the programming language that iOS runs off of. So Apple said, we really want to have people learn our programming language. And what better way to do that than in a playground, okay? So what we started off with a few months ago even, was Learn to Code 1 and 2, okay? We had those two. You'll see now that there's Learn to Code 3, which is an excellent sequence of lessons that we'll take a look at. And it's relatively new. It's only a few weeks old. You'll also notice down here that you have a whole bunch of other programs that you can implement within your classroom. I'm really excited because when I turned on the iPad a couple days ago, 2-3 days ago, I saw Cypher, which is a brand new program, which I haven't taken a look at yet, but I'm very excited to see that and see the programming possibilities attached to that. You also see that you have an hour of code. Now, some of us know that hour of code, we celebrated that, December 5th through the 12th. And you're going to say, I can't do an hour of code now because it's over with. Well, not true. You can basically start off, I would argue, start off with Swift Playgrounds by implementing an hour of code within your classroom. And I think that your students would enjoy that. Now, you want to go a little bit further, you would click on Learn to Code 1. So let's take a look at Learn to Code 1 real quick. I'm going to go ahead and open this. Some of you are going to have to go ahead and get it, and that's totally fine. Here's what I like. We're talking about digital literacy, going back to my presentation, okay? Let me go ahead and put this right here just to remind us. Digital literacy. Apple is forcing us to go through, look at these different slides, and notice that they're age appropriate K through 12. Something that we can all appreciate. They're not too babyish, if you would. They're not for someone who's older. It's K through 12 appropriate. And I would even argue you could start as young as 3rd grade with Swift Playgrounds. So I'm going to keep going through the slides. It's really nice. We have to read what's going on. Continue through. Keep going. And of course, we have to look at the digital literacy. The graphics are aesthetically pleasing. The directions are easy. And let's start coding. So here's the magical part. Those of you who have played with Code Academy, you've looked at that website before. Those of you who are coders, you will see that there are a whole bunch of similarities between this. And I love the volume. It's really nice. I'll turn mine down. Okay. But here's what's really nice is that you have essentially your place where you're going to see your code actually enacted, and then you're going to enter your code down here. Now, here's what's also really swell. When you touch your screen up here, you can maximize, you can minimize, you can rotate, okay? Rotate to see exactly how your students are going to code. This will help with the number of steps that your guy has to take. Say your character is not the one that you want. If you double tap on your character, all of a sudden he shoots into a different screen, and look at that. You can choose the blue guy or the green guy. I'm going to go with the blue guy just because. And so now I have a different character right there. Okay. Again, love the 3D graphics. Love being able to turn around and manipulate the screen. Now, let's take a look. Love this part down here. Essentially, it says use Swift commands to tell Byte to move and collect a gem. Okay, so you have your goal. Your character Byte loves to collect gems, but can't do it alone. All right, I'm not going to read the rest for you, but again, you're seeing how digital literacy is being enhanced right here. They follow along with the directions, and then they look through the different objectives. Look for the gem in the puzzle world. Enter the correct combination of the move forward and collect gem commands. So down here, I'm going to click move forward. Now, how many times do I need to move forward? Let me look at my screen up here again. I can see 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to move forward 3 times, and I'm going to collect my gem. Okay, run my code. Let's see what happens. There's Byte moving along, and Dynamite. He collects his gem. So there's my epic win. All right. Now, all through this process, we're looking at how students are focused, their problem solving, and of course, say they had only taken 2 steps forward. They would have been able to recognize that particular mistake, and they have an opportunity to try it again. Okay. Those of you who are going to go into Learn to Code 1, here's what's really excellent. If we click on our ellipses with the lines attached to them, right here you can see Learn to Code 1 starts with commands, moves to functions, moves for loops, conditional code, logical operators, while loops, algorithms. All these lessons right here are attached to Learn to Code. It's pretty great. So I'm going to go out of that real quick. And then I'm going to click on my ellipses right here because this is where we connect this to Loudoun Creates. Loudoun Creates is, we're creating videos. We're creating a public product. We're attaching this to our one to the world work, right? So what I can do is I can actually have my students record their coding experience right here. They can take a picture, as you can see. They can create a PDF. They can record a movie. Let's record this movie. I'm going to go ahead and click on record. Press my red button up here. Of course, now I realize that this recording is not going to work on this particular network, unfortunately, but this is where your students would essentially create that particular movie. I'm on LCPS Open, and for some reason that's blocked, so that's something that I will work with DTS to solve. But here is the record movie feature. You would click on the red record button, and normally you would be able to record your students' coding. Now you'll notice the green circle with the white check mark. This is basically your students running through each one of these lessons. And immediately some of you are going, well, with Loudoun Creates, I have a limited amount of devices. How are my students supposed to keep track of their work in Swift Playgrounds? Well, here's what's really excellent. If we go back to our 4 squares in the upper left-hand corner, okay, all I did was click back to my playgrounds. All right, here's what's excellent. If you tap on the code, Learn to Code right there, today 4:14 p.m., click on that, just one touch. You can change the name right there, and your students can do this on their device. They would just need to keep the same device each time that they use Swift Playgrounds. I'm going to go ahead and click on Done, and look at that, Nick Rosita right there. If I click on my plus box, if I go back to Featured, and I click on Learn to Code 1 again, there should be another occasion where this comes up. That's what we do. My apologies. We duplicate it. So sorry about that. Let me go through that whole process again. My apologies. We're going to click on edit. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to select one of these boxes right here. You can see that one is being duplicated right there. And look at that, Nick Rosita 1 came about. Okay. So again, we're going to click on edit. We're going to duplicate one of these, and you get several options. Duplicate and reset, or duplicate and keep changes, or cancel. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and click cancel, and I'm going to change Nick Rosita 1 to student 1. And look at that. I have two different profiles, and now your students within Loudoun Creates can all have their own individual playgrounds here within Swift. Pretty excellent. Again, some of us have limited machines, limited devices, so this is really going to help us out. All right, so that's great and all, but how we connect this to Loudoun Creates, I talked about that with the videos, and of course, not quite working for me on the iPad right here, but this is how you can take videos or record movies by clicking on your ellipses when you're actually in Swift. Take a picture, create a PDF, or record a movie. All right there. So how does this connect to your curriculum is going to be the next question that you're going to ask. Okay. Now, that's a valid question. And the answer is, well, let's take a look at what we have. Okay. Within Playgrounds, we have our hour of code. I would suggest starting there and start working with the problem solving. You know, for Loudoun Creates, we're creating those videos. And an hour of code might be a pretty creative project, showing how your students are working through solving the problems that coding has for them has to offer them. For some of the math classes, I know of some teachers that are working with spirals, which is pretty neat. And basically what you have here is this. Working with mathematical shapes, working with angles. There's relevancy attached to math classes. Going back to Playgrounds again, we have drawing sounds. So your students could create coding based on how they create musical instruments. And so within these smaller programs, which again, they specify what the level is, intermediate, beginner. I don't think we have any advanced ones yet. But if you look right here, Drawing Sounds is a beginner program. So you have your students basically create different musical instruments and creating sound effects. So this might be attached to a project that you're doing within your class. Brick Breaker is by far my favorite because it takes me back to the 80s, of course, which is great. But here's what's also excellent. And of course, teachers, you're going to have to watch your students. You can actually play a game of Brick Breaker, blah, 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 and your students can then basically create their own Brick Breaker course where they can participate in, which is pretty neat. Eventually, it'll come up. There we go. And that is me playing right there. Nothing like playing games during a presentation. So, does this connect to everybody's curriculum? Of course not. But you have the ability to take a look at how you can creatively instill coding within your classroom. Now, here's what I really enjoy about Learn to Code 3. Learn to Code 3 actually gives you a sandbox where your students will actually have the ability to recreate apps. And so what I would encourage folks to try to do is have their students work through Learn to Code 1, Learn to Code 2, maybe within a resource class, within your Universal Study Hall, Flex, whatever you have within your school, and try to build to Learn to Code 3. This might be something that you build upon with your Loudoun Creates experience. Learn to Code 1 is your Loudoun Creates experience. Learn to Code 2 is just going a little bit beyond. And then ultimately to Learn to Code 3, where your students can actually recreate apps and learn how to create apps within the iOS system, which would be pretty cool, I think. So this is Swift Playgrounds. The connection to the curriculum may not be clear, but I'm happy to have that discussion with you and see if there's a way that we can do that. Connecting it to Loudoun Creates, pretty simple. Creating those videos, creating those public products. And again, the students are going to be excited when they get home. They're going to sit there and tell their parents, guess what I did? I was a coder today in class. I problem solved. And by the way, you can see me on our Loudoun Creates YouTube channel. Within the Vision course, I've added a few resources for you. Now, of course, with all my presentations, I like to tie in Ken Robinson. So I encourage you to take a look at that video that I've put right there. And then Swift Playgrounds. I've embedded the YouTube playlist for Swift Playgrounds, which is about 9 videos, I think, that go through the goals for Swift. You can see that this one is the goals for Swift 3. This is the latest one, but this entire playlist is available for you to take a look at and learn more about Swift. My number one recommendation with how you learn Swift is this. You basically take your iPad home, you sit on the couch after you're deflating from a long day in the classroom, and you start coding. That's it. You don't have to have any experience with coding in order to code in Swift, which is excellent. And again, like your students, you can learn to make mistakes and then have those epic wins later on. Also within the Vision course, I have that small presentation that I just went through. The slides are right there for you. And then within the next module, a few links that discuss Swift Playgrounds, the Hour of Code. I think this is pretty excellent. Those of you who are going to try Hour of Code first, which is what I encourage you to do, I put the facilitator guide there for you. And that's in PDF file right there. So you can take a look at it. It's embedded right here within the Vision course. And it goes through step by step how you could best implement and engage your students in the Hour of Code in Swift Playgrounds. I've also put a small article on the relevancy of Swift Playgrounds. Oops. From the Hack the Classroom website. And this also gives you some phenomenal first steps on how you can implement this within your classroom. Finally, and I know this is kind of frustrating for some of you all who want to basically use iTunes to take a look at some of the textbooks. I've never been big on textbooks, but when I was trained on Swift Playgrounds, Learn to Code 1 and 2, I had an opportunity to take a look at the teacher guides, and they are pretty phenomenal. They go through every single one of the lessons, the Learn to Code 1, Learn to Code 2, and now you can see Learn to Code 3 is down here too. These are all free resources for you in iTunes. And if you have a personal device that you sign into, as soon as you sign into your iTunes account and go to books, you can download these books onto your personal device, which is really, really great. I have it downloaded to my wife's iPad, and I go through these all the time when I'm teaching my own children. Again, I said that I think that this is something that you can implement in a third grade classroom. When I first had a chance to work with this, my daughter was in fifth grade and she took to this pretty easily. My son in seventh grade, he already does a little bit of coding and he breezed through Learn to Code 1 and 2 really fast. He hasn't had a chance to play with Learn to Code 3 yet. So this is great for elementary and middle, and of course high school. I think everyone sees how this is relevant there as well. Let me go back to our vision course real quick. And like I said, the iBooks are right there. I put that link right there for you. So if you go into your iPad and go into Vision, go into our Vision course, you can go ahead and take a look at those resources right there, which are a hot link for you. And I have these resources there for you as well. So, which is awesome. All those things right there. So, I hope I've sold you on why it's relevant to code in your classroom. We're talking about how to best engage our students with 21st century skills that they're going to need to know, or some things that are relevant within the 21st century student that we're trying to develop within our classrooms. So I'm hoping that I sold you on these 4 elements. Again, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you one-on-one if you want to discuss how best to engage your students in Swift Playgrounds. Just contact me anytime and we can have that conversation. So that's Swift Playgrounds in a nutshell. I hope that you use this source or this resource on your Loudoun Creates iPad within your classroom and have a great time with it. All right. Have a great day. Thank you for tuning in.